Well, hello there, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Political Spotlight, and I am your host, Christopher H. Bilbrey. It's great to be here, great to be with you. We have some amazing breaking news for you out of Indiana. This is breaking news out of Marion County, Indiana. We have a judge that has made a ruling on an extremely pesky law that has been put in place back in 2021, went into effect in 2022, and this law has affected the elections in Indiana for the past couple of elections, and this is something that we've talked about here on the Political Spotlight many different times. This is something that has really gotten in the way of citizens being involved and people deciding they wanted to run and try to make things better. We have a judge that has actually made a ruling because of a lawsuit that is actually going to be beneficial to the citizens, beneficial to those of us that are involved in the political sense of trying to make things better. We have a cover sheet here. The cover sheet says, Marion County judge has ruled that an Indiana election law that limits candidates from appearing on the ballot in primaries is unconstitutional. The ruling stems from a lawsuit filed by Southern Indiana egg farmer and U.S. Senate candidate John Rust. Rust has filed to get on the ballot, but had not voted in the last two Republican primaries. Because of that, in order to get on the ballot, he would have needed to go to his county GOP chairwoman in this case, and he was told by his Jackson County chairwoman that she would not sign the letter that he would need stating that he was in good standing with the party, and it's one of those two elements that were required by this new law in order for him to be able to run. Well, the Marion County Judge Patrick Dietrick, a Republican, held the law violated the federal and state constitutions on several grounds. The judge ruled that the law violated the First and 14th Amendments, stating that the state had no compelling interest in keeping Rust off the ballot. In addition to the U.S. Constitution, Dietrick ruled that the law also violated the state constitution, saying that it adds extra requirements to qualify one to run for office and appear on the ballot. And this has just really been in the way. You see here we have the first page of the judge's ruling. You'll be able to find the entire ruling on my social media, on Facebook, X, or Twitter, whichever you still call it, as well as you'll be able to find it on youtube.com /at the Political Spotlight in the community section. And the ruling is really important because there's a couple really good quotes from the judge that's just absolutely amazing. On page 8 of the ruling, the judge borrows from Indiana-raised attorney and a United States President, Abraham Lincoln, when he says elections belong to the people. I mean, that's just common sense, right? Elections belong to the people. It is their decision. How dare anyone take this away from us? This is something that's just absolutely crazy. The judge goes on to say, when the immense power of the state is turned towards and upon its citizens in such a way that it imperils a sacred and cherished right of those same citizens, the state's actions must be for an articulated, compelling, and pressing reason, and it must be exercised in the most transparent and least restrictive and least intrusive way possible. That's very important. The most transparent and least restrictive and least intrusive ways possible. That's very important because then in the third quote, the judge says this 2021 law fails in this regard. It unduly burdens Hoosiers' long recognized right to freely associate with the political parties of one's choosing and to cast one's vote effectively. Now, this is very important because what we see here is a law that was basically brought up and talked about kind of in the cover of darkness. This came into effect in 2021 after a lot of people felt that the Indiana General Assembly, along with the governor, failed the citizens in the 2020 pandemic. during the dreaded COVID-19 outbreak, a lot of Hoosiers felt like the state government really went overboard with a lot of its actions. And what that did was it got a lot of people thinking, maybe we could do better. So there were a lot of people that said, I'm tired of this. I want to run. And what happened was we had a lot of elected officials who were scared because of this. See, the division of the state government is like this. We have 100 state representatives always. That number never changes. And we have 50 state senators. That number never changes. The only thing that changes is how many of those 100 are Republican versus Democrat, and how many of those 50 are Republican versus Democrat. Right now in the state of Indiana, we have a super majority. That means the governor's Republican, and a large majority of the state representatives are Republican, and a large majority of the state senators are Republican. Back in 2021, a lot of people didn't know this was going on. This was voted on by the state House and by the state representatives, and it went into effect, taking a lot of people by surprise in 2022. And it really, really messed up a lot of elections that year. And if we look at the vote in the House of Representatives, it's very telling. In 2021, we had 71 Republicans in the state House. We had 29 Democrats. And this is the vote on Indiana House Bill 1375, which became this law. Before, you just needed to vote in one primary. So you'd vote in this primary, and that's what deemed that you were a Republican, or you voted in this primary as a Democrat, and that's what deemed that you were a Democrat. We don't declare parties here in the state of Indiana, and that allows people to associate how they so choose. Well, this law really changed things. If we go back to the vote of the Indiana House and look at this for a second, here on the right-hand corner, you can see there were 62 Republicans that voted in favor of this. There were 2 Republicans that voted not in favor. There was 1 that did not vote, and there were 6 that were absent, and that made up the total 71. The 2 Republicans that voted no on this, unsurprisingly, were the 2 patriots of the state house at the time. It was John Jacob from District 93 and Kurt Knisely from District 22. Now, unfortunately, both of these representatives were voted out in the very next election because the Republican establishment just really did not like how they acted. They did not like that they were free thinkers. Bizarrely enough, the leader of the mindless Republican hive mind, the Speaker of the House, Representative Todd Houston, District 37, did not vote for this. He was the one not voting, kind of the things that make you go, like, why wasn't he part of this vote? Maybe he knew that this would be something that would get people upset. It's kind of interesting. Besides those 3, Jacob, Knisely, and then Houston, that didn't vote, there were 6 Republicans and 6 Democrats that were absent. And you see the 6 Republicans and 6 Democrats on the screen. And then, of course, that means 62 Republicans voted in favor, 23 Democrats voted in favor, and that being 85 out of the 100. And that was favorable there in the House. So now we look at the Senate vote. And if you look here, they are voting on the same bill. There are 50 of them. 38 Republicans out of 39 voted in favor of this. There were no votes. There were no not voting. Okay. And there was only 1 absent. So 38 voted in favor out of 39. All 11 Democrats voted in favor of this. There were no votes. There were no not voting, and there were no absent. That means 49 of the 50 senators voted for this. And what's interesting with the senators is it was actually the Senate that made the amendment to this law that made it so crazy, stating that you needed to have the 2 consecutive primaries, either as a Republican or 2 consecutive as a Democrat, to run. And if we look at the breakdown of this, it was Republican Senator Mike Young that was absent. All of the other Republican senators, 38, and are all Democrat senators, 11, voted in favor of this bill. That's the 49 out of 50 senators. Essentially, that tells the tale. So that's very interesting to see there. But the good news out of Marion County that we have is Judge Patrick Dietrick has ruled against this unconstitutional law. We'll have to see what this means for the election coming forward in 2024. I fear that we're still going to have some power hungry and control happy party officials who will say, no, 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 we will be able to stop you. What we're going to see is challenges, I think, all over the board. And then it's going to be the election boards that are either going to have to do the right thing, or I feel we will have more lawsuits, and hopefully we will have more judges stepping up to agree with Judge Patrick Dietrick. So that's the breaking news out of Marion County, Indiana. This came out on December 7th, 2023. We are happy to bring this news to you. We will talk about this in more breakdown and more commentary over the next couple weeks, I'm sure, going into the 2024 election. And that's what we have for you in this breaking news brief. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us, and we will talk with you all again. Remember, you can find us live 5 nights a week, Sunday through Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern, right here on YouTube. Take care of yourselves. God bless each and every one of you, and we will see you all again real soon.